Hey, thrill seekers, dive into 8 bone-chilling Appalachian horror stories, where dark hollows hide real nightmares. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more spine-tingling tales. Comment your scariest moment below. Grab your courage, dim the lights. The mountain secrets are calling. Let's get haunted. Story 1. The Hollow's Teeth. I'm 29. A surveyor for a logging company, mapping the edges of Cutter's Hollow deep in the West Virginia Appalachians. Grew up in these mountains, learned their moods, how the wind shifts, how the ground lies. My dad used to say the hills have memory, but I never thought they had hunger. Last spring I got a job to mark a new cut line, a strip of forest nobody'd touched in decades. The pay was good, too good, but I didn't ask why. I packed my gear, compass, GPS, machete, notebook, and drove out alone. The road to Cutter's Hollow was barely a scar, gravel spitting under my tires, trees crowding so close they scraped the truck. No radio signal, no cell bars, just static and silence. The trailhead was unmarked, just a gap in the pines where the ground dipped into shadow. I parked, slung my pack, and started walking. The forest was old, heavy with moss, the air thick like damp wool. My boots sank into earth that smelled of rot, not decay but something sharper like iron. I'd mapped tougher terrain before, swamps, cliffs, but this felt different. The trees leaned in, their branches knotted like fingers, and every step echoed too loud, like the hollow was listening. I shook it off, focused on my grid. Plot the line, mark the trees, get out by dusk. An hour in, I found the first sign something was wrong. A deer skull wedged in a tree fork, its antlers tangled in vines. Not old, not weathered, fresh with bits of sinew still clinging. I took a photo, noted the coordinates. Just poachers, I told myself, but my gut twisted. Another half-mile I found more. A rib cage, a jawbone, a hoof, all stuck in trees spaced out like markers. No blood, no tracks, just bones placed deliberate. High enough I'd have to look up to see 'em. My GPS started glitching, the screen flickering, coordinates jumping. I switched to my compass, but the needle spun lazy, like it was drunk. By noon the forest changed. The pines gave way to a clearing, unnatural, too perfect, like someone had shaved the earth flat. In the center stood a ring of stones, each one smooth, pale, the size of a fist. They weren't stacked, just laid in a circle, tight as a chain. I stepped closer, and the air went cold, my breath clouding despite the spring heat. The stones had carvings, jagged lines like teeth bared in a grin. I crouched, sketched one in my notebook. That's when I heard it. A low hum, not from the ground but inside me, vibrating my ribs, making my teeth ache. I stood fast, scanning the trees. Nothing moved, but the hum grew, steady like a heartbeat. I should have left then, but I'm stubborn. Kept going, marking trees, checking my map. The hum followed, faint but always there, like a shadow I couldn't shake. By late afternoon I reached a ravine, narrow and deep, its walls slick with black moss. At the bottom, half buried in mud, was a wooden trapdoor, warped but solid. No lock, just a rusted handle. Didn't look like a cellar, too small, too deep in the wild. I called out, voice flat against the ravine's walls. No answer. My hand was on the handle before I could think, cold iron biting my palm. I pulled, and the door groaned open, spitting. Damp air that smelled of wet stone and something sour. Inside was a tunnel carved rough, barely wide enough for my shoulders. My flashlight caught glints on the walls, more carvings, same as the stones, teeth and jagged lines. The hum was louder now, pulsing, pulling me forward. I crawled in, stupid, reckless, heart-hammering. The tunnel sloped down, air getting colder. walls tighter. After maybe 10 yards, it opened into a chamber, low-ceilinged, the size of a small room. The walls were covered in bones, hundreds, maybe thousands, animal and other. Femurs, skulls, vertebrae woven into patterns, some fresh, some ancient. In the center, on a slab of stone, sat a single object, a carved wooden mask, no eyes, just a wide, toothy maw. I couldn't look away. The mask's grain pulsed like it was breathing. The hum was deafening, shaking my skull. I reached out, don't know why, and my fingers brushed the wood. It was warm, soft, like skin. The hum stopped. Silence, thick as tar, pressed in. Then the mask moved, its jaw creaking open, slow, deliberate. A voice came, not from the mask, but from the walls, the bones, the air. You saw. Not a question, a fact. My flashlight died. Darkness swallowed me. I scrambled back, clawing at the tunnel walls, dirt crumbling under my nails. Something moved, behind me. Not footsteps, but a sliding like wet cloth dragging. I didn't look, just crawled, lungs burning, until I hit the trapdoor and threw myself out. The ravine was darker now, dusk settling fast. I ran, compass useless, GPS dead, branches, tearing my arms. The hum started again, softer, mocking, always just behind. I don't know how I found my truck, blind luck maybe. Key in, engine roaring, I peeled out, tires spitting gravel. The rear view showed nothing but trees, but I felt eyes, heavy, unblinking. Back home I burned my notes, deleted the photos. Quit the job, no explanation. The company didn't ask, they just paid out. I don't sleep much now. The hum's gone, but at night I hear scratching, faint, like teeth on wood. Last week I found a stone on my porch, smooth, carved with a jagged grin. I threw it in the river, but I know it's not over. Cutter's Hollow doesn't forget what you've seen. It's waiting, patient, hungry. Story 2, The Fog's Choir. I'm 34, a nurse from Bristol, Tennessee, used to long shifts and sleepless nights. The Appalachian trails. They were my escape, my chance to breathe after days of beeping monitors and sterile hospital halls. My sister Lena called it my forest therapy. Last summer, I needed it more than ever. Burnout had me hollowed out, my hands trembling over patient charts. So, Lena suggested a weekend hike in Grayson Hollow, a quiet stretch of North Carolina's, Blue Ridge known for its fog and solitude. We'd hiked it before, easy trails, no surprises. This time I went alone, craving silence. Just me, a light pack, water, trail mix, a sleeping bag, and my old pocket knife. The drive was calm, just the hum of tires on back roads, pines blurring. Past Grayson Hollow's trailhead was just a dirt pull-off. No signs, just a path snaking into the mist. That morning, the fog was thick, curling like smoke, swallowing the treetops. I zipped up my jacket, checked my map, and started walking. The air was cool, damp, smelling of wet leaves and clay. The trail felt soft underfoot, muffled by years of fallen needles. At first, it was perfect. Peaceful, like the world had turned down its noise. I hiked a couple of miles, passing familiar markers, a split oak, a creek too shallow to splash. But the fog, it didn't lift. It pressed closer, heavy, like it was watching me. Around noon, I noticed the quiet. Not just calm, but wrong. No birds, no rustling, no wind. My footsteps sounded too loud, like slaps on water. I stopped, held my breath, and listened. That's when I heard it. A voice, faint, singing. Not words, just a melody, soft and high, like a child's hum coming from deeper in the fog, ahead, on the trail. "Hello?" I called out. My voice fell flat, swallowed by the mist. The singing stopped, then started again, clearer, joined by another voice. then a third. A choir, small but growing, weaving notes that didn't fit together, sharp, discordant but strangely pulling. I should have turned back, I know that now, but curiosity's a stubborn thing. I followed the sound, stepping off the trail into thicker woods. The fog clung to my skin, cold as river water. The trees turned sparse, their trunks pale and smooth, like bleached bones. The singing led me to a clearing, maybe 30 feet wide, the ground bare except for a single tree in the center. It was dead, blackened, its branches twisted upward like claws. The choir was loud now, surrounding me, but I couldn't see anyone. Just fog, thick and shifting, with shapes flickering. At its edges, tall, thin, wrong. I froze, my heart pounding, my knife in my hand useless. The singing tightened like it was circling me. I backed toward the tree, my boot catching on something hard. I looked down, a stone, flat and gray, carved with a spiral that seemed to pulse. More stones circled the tree, dozens of them, each, with that same spiral, glinting wet in the fog. The air grew heavy, my chest tight like I was breathing through a straw. Then the fog parted, just enough to show them. Figures, maybe 10, standing at the clearing's edge. They were human-shaped but too tall, their limbs bent at angles that made my stomach churn. No faces, just smooth, pale surfaces where eyes should have been. They didn't move, but their singing did, louder, inside my skull, not my ears. It wasn't just sound, it was feeling, grief, hunger, pulling at my bones. I gripped my knife, shouting, "Leave me alone!" The fog swallowed my words. One figure stepped forward, its head tilting, curious. Its arms stretched out, too long, fingers like twigs brushing the air. I swung my knife, wild, and the singing spiked, sharp as glass, blurring my vision. I stumbled, hitting the dead tree, and the ground shook. A low rumble like something waking up. The figures closed in, slow, their voices blending into a scream that wasn't human. I ran, blind, the fog choking my lungs, branches tearing at my arms. The singing followed, always behind, never fading. I don't know how long I ran. Minutes. Hours. The fog felt alive, guiding me, trapping me. I tripped, fell hard, my knife skittering into the mist. When I looked up, I was back at the clearing, the dead tree looming, the stones still pulsing. The figures were closer now, their faceless heads turned toward me, singing my name. Not in my voice, but Lena's, perfect, like she was standing there. I screamed, scrambling back, and hit something solid. A rock, jagged, uncarved. The singing stopped, sudden like a cut wire. The figures froze, then sank into the fog, melting away. The mist thinned, just enough to show the trail, faint but real. I ran, didn't stop, didn't look back, until I reached my car, hands bloody, jacket shredded. I drove straight out, the fog trailing in my mirrors. Lena's voice echoing in my head, singing my name over and over, wrong. Back home, I quit hiking. I told Lena I'd had a scare, nothing more. She didn't push, but her eyes lingered on. The cuts I couldn't explain. I avoid fog now, stick to open fields. At night sometimes I hear it. A faint hum, high and sharp, coming from the window. Last month I found a spiral stone by my mailbox, wet like it had been dredged from a creek. I buried it deep, but I know Grayson Hollow's choir isn't done with me. They're still out there waiting for me to answer their song. Story 3. The Lantern's Keeper. I'm 27, a mechanic from Pikeville, Kentucky, fixing trucks and tractors for farmers who don't trust city garages. The Appalachians, they were my backyard, places to fish, to hunt, when the shop closed. Early, my uncle swore by a spot called Marrow Hollow, a valley in southern Ohio's hills, perfect for trout, and quiet, Last fall I needed that quiet. Bad. My girlfriend left, took half my savings, and the shop's owner was writing me about quotas. Marrow Hollow sounded like a reset. I grabbed my rod, a cooler, a tarp, my dad's old hunting knife. Figured I'd camp a night or two. The drive was long. Past rusted barns, down roads so narrow my truck's mirrors brushed the trees. The hollow was deep, its trail a muddy scar winding through oaks and sycamores. Dusk hit fast, the sky bruising purple, shadows pooling under the canopy. I set up camp by a creek, its water cold, clear, gurgling over smooth stones. The air smelled of damp bark, leaf rot, familiar, grounding. I cast a line, caught nothing, didn't care. The quiet was enough. No engines, no voices, just the creek's soft hum. I built a small fire, ate a sandwich, leaned back, watching sparks drift into the dark. That's when I saw it. A light, faint, bobbing through the trees across the creek, like a lantern swinging low. I stood squinting. Poachers, maybe? A lost hiker? "Hey!" I called, my voice sharp in the silence. The light paused and then moved again, slower, toward the creek's far bank. I grabbed my flashlight, swept the beam across. Nothing. Just trees, their trunks slick with moss. The lantern glow kept going. Steady, not flickering like a flame should. I crossed the creek, boots slipping on wet rocks, water soaking my jeans. The light stayed ahead, always just out of reach, weaving through the forest like it knew the way. I followed, stubborn, telling myself I'd find whoever it was, warn them about wandering at night. The trail faded, the ground turning soft, sucking at my boots. The air grew colder, my breath visible, though it was only September. The lantern stopped, hovering maybe 50 yards off, brighter now. A sickly yellow that didn't touch the trees around it. "Who's there?" I called again. No answer, but the glow pulsed slow like a heartbeat. My flashlight dimmed, its beam thinning to a thread. I cursed, smacked it, but it died completely. The lantern moved again, faster. I chased it. Branches, snagging my jacket, roots tripping me. I don't know why I didn't stop. Something about that light, it pulled, like a hook in my chest. The forest opened to a clearing, small, ringed by trees so dense they looked woven together. In the center stood a figure holding the lantern high. It wore a coat, long, tattered, hood up, face hidden. The lantern's light cast no shadow, just burned cold, making my eyes ache. "Hey, you lost?" I said, knife in hand, voice shakier than I wanted. The figure didn't move, but the lantern swung, slow, like a pendulum. Then it spoke. Not a voice, but a rasp dry as dead leaves. "You came." The words weren't loud, but they hit like a slap, echoing in my skull. I stepped back, heart hammering. The figure lowered the lantern and I saw its face, or where a face should have been. Just a hole. Black, endless, like a well with no bottom. The rasp came again. "Look." The lantern flared, blinding, and images flooded my head. Flashes of me. Me as a kid, fishing, my dad's hand on my shoulder, me screaming in a ditch, blood on my hands, me standing in this clearing again and again, holding that lantern. I stumbled, nausea twisting my gut, the knife slipping from my fingers. The figure moved closer, not walking, just there, inches away. Its coat smelled of mildew, ash. The whole face pulsed, pulling at my eyes. I tried to run, but my legs were lead, the ground soft, sinking. The rasp laughed, low, wet, and the lantern's light showed the clearing's edges. Bones, human, animal, half buried in the dirt, arranged in spirals, gleaming like they'd been polished. The figure raised a hand, skeletal, and pointed at my chest. "Yours," it said, and I felt it. A tug, like something unspooling inside me, my breath catching, my vision spotting black. I don't know how I moved, but I swung, my fist connecting with the figure's arm, solid, cold like iron wrapped in cloth. The lantern dropped, hit the ground, and the light went out. Darkness crashed in, heavy, absolute. The rasp screamed, not human, a sound like glass shattering in my bones. I ran blind, branches tearing my face, tripping over roots, crawling. When I fell, the scream followed, fading, then gone. The forest was silent again, but heavy, like it was holding its breath. I found my camp at dawn, tarp shredded, cooler spilled, fire dead. My knife was gone, my flashlight too. I didn't look for them, just grabbed my pack, staggered to the truck. The drive out was a blur, my hands shaking, blood drying on my cheeks. I haven't told anyone, not my uncle, not my boss. I still fix trucks, but I don't fish, don't camp. At night I see that light bobbing in my dreams and hear the rasp, "Yours." 2 weeks ago I found a bone on my doorstep, small, polished, carved with a spiral. I burned it. But Marrow Hollows, Keeper knows where I am. It's waiting for me to carry its light. Story 4. The Mind's Mirror. I'm 31, a welder from Harlan, Kentucky, used to patching coal trucks and steel frames under the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, my torch sparking life into metal scars. The Appalachian hills were my refuge. There, quiet trails, a place to clear my head when the grind's noise drowned my thoughts. My buddy Cal, a part-time park ranger with a grin like summer, knew every back trail in Bell County, his stories of hidden hollows keeping us warm on cold nights. Lemisio sees away. Thou. Last winter, over cheap whiskey, he told me about an old mine in Sable Hollow, shut down since the 40s. Its tunnels sealed after a collapse no one talked about. Said it was off limits, mostly caved in. But locals whispered of lights, flickering, in its mouth at night like eyes in the dark. I was restless, laid off for the season, drinking too much, my trailer echoing with empty bottles and emptier days. Exploring the mine sounded like a way to kill the boredom, to feel something. Besides the weight of nothing, I packed a flashlight, rope, my welder's gloves, a crowbar, just in case, and drove out at dawn. Snow dusting the roads like ash, the mountains looming silent. Sable Hollow was a scar in the mountains, its trail a frozen rut through black pines, their branches heavy with ice creaking in the wind. The air was sharp, smelling of wet coal, frost, and something sour, like decay trapped in cold. The mine's entrance was half hidden, boarded up with splintered planks, graffiti faded to smudges, the wood warped as if it had wept. I pried board loose, the wood groaning like it hurt, nails screeching as they gave way. Inside, the tunnel was narrow, walls slick with damp, ceiling so low I had to stoop, my breath clouding in the chill. My flashlight cut through the dark, catching rusted tracks, scattered tools, pickaxes, a broken lantern, their handles rotting, like the miners just walked out mid-shift, leaving their lives behind. The silence was heavy, broken only by my boots crunching grit, and the drip of water somewhere deep, steady as a pulse. I went maybe 100 yards, the tunnel twisting, my shoulders brushing stone, when it widened into a chamber, big as a barn, with timber beams sagging under decades of weight, their creaks like whispers in the dark. The air felt wrong, too warm, like breath trapped in a room clinging to my skin. My light caught something on the far wall, a mirror, tall as me, its frame carved wood, cracked but solid, intricate with shapes I couldn't place. It didn't belong, not in a mine, not here where dust and time ruled. The glass was cloudy, streaked with grime, but it held my reflection, me, pale, eyes wide, flashlight shaking in my grip. Stepped closer, glove brushing the frame, the wood cold. Colder than the stone around it, biting through leather. My reflection, it didn't move right, lagged, like a bad video feed. My arm still when I'd already lowered it. My face, wrong, too sharp, too still. I backed up, heart thumping, a hammer in my chest, telling myself it was the light, the angle, the whiskey still in my blood. But the mirror's me. It smiled, slow, teeth too sharp, eyes too black, like holes punched in the world. I froze, breath clouding the air, my pulse loud in my ears. The reflection raised a hand, pressed it to the glass, and the mirror rippled, like water disturbed, waves spreading outward. A voice came, not mine but close, a gravelly echo like my own throat turned against me. Stay. It wasn't loud, but it vibrated in my chest, made my knees weak, my thoughts slow. I swung my crowbar, instinct, cracked. The mirror, a jagged split across its face, glass screeching. The reflection didn't break. It laughed, low, wet, splitting wider, like its mouth was the crack, a maw opening in the dark. The chamber shook, dust raining from the beams, pebbles skittering across the floor. I ran, flashlight bobbing, tunnel narrowing around me, walls pressing close, scraping my shoulders. The voice followed, not behind but inside, whispering, "You're mine." My light caught glints on the walls, more mirrors, smaller, embedded in the stone, each showing me. Running, falling, bleeding, my face twisted, eyes black, smiling when I wasn't. I didn't look long, just kept moving. Rope snagging on jagged rock, gloves tearing, leather splitting at the seams. The tunnel twisted, steeper than I remembered, like it was reshaping itself, the earth alive, conspiring. I tripped, crowbar clanging, loud as a bell, landed hard, my flashlight rolling into a crevice, its beam dying. Darkness swallowed. Thick, alive, pressing against my skin, heavy as water. I scrambled up, hands scraping walls, blind, my breath ragged, echoing in the tight space. The whispers grew, overlapping. Not one voice, but many. All mine, saying things I never said, curses, pleas, screams, words I didn't know crowding my skull. Something brushed my arm. Not solid, but cold, like a draft with weight sliding across my skin. I swung my fist. Hit nothing, just air. But the cold lingered, sinking into my bones. I stumbled forward, hands groping, rocks cutting. My palms, then saw light, not mine, dim, flickering like a candle, weak but real. It came from a side tunnel, narrow, its walls carved with shapes, faces, eyeless, mouths open, frozen in screams, their edges worn but sharp. I didn't want to go, but the whispers pushed, filling my head, leaving no room for thought, no choice but forward. The tunnel opened to another chamber, smaller, the air so warm it stung my lungs, tasting of sulfur and something alive. In the center was a pool, black still, reflecting the flicker of a single flame floating above it. No candle, no source, just fire, hovering, its light dancing on the water. The pool showed me, not my face now, but pieces, my eyes, my hands, my chest stitched together wrong, moving like a puppet, jerking in ways I didn't control. The flame spoke, my voice, soft, knowing. Look. Closer. I couldn't stop myself. Leaned over the pool, my reflection shifting, showing me, drowning, clawing at glass, trapped in the mirror I'd cracked, my face pale, eyes black, mouth open in a silent scream. The pool rippled, and something grabbed my wrist, Hard, wet, pulling me down, its grip like ice burning through my skin. I yanked back, falling, my glove ripping off, leather tearing like paper. The flame flared, blinding, and the whispers screamed, a chorus of my own voice tearing through my head, splitting my thoughts apart. I crawled, found the tunnel, ran, walls closing in, rocks cutting my palms, my knees blood seeping, warm against the cold stone. The light behind me died, but the pull stayed, tugging at my chest like a string tied to my ribs, urging me back. I don't know how I found the entrance. Snow was falling, soft, muffling the world, a blanket over the horror. I threw myself. Through the gap, board splintering, collapsed in the cold, lungs burning, hand bleeding where the glove was gone. My skin raw, marked with faint lines like cracks in glass. I drove home, didn't stop, didn't look in my mirrors. The rear view, a threat I couldn't face. I quit drinking, got my job back, welding under those harsh lights, the routine a lifeline. But I don't weld near Sable Hollow, won't go near those hills. I see things now, my reflection in windows, lagging, smiling when I don't, its eyes too dark, watching me. Last month I found a shard of glass in my toolbox, cloudy, carved with an eyeless face warm to the touch like it knew me. I smashed it, hammered it to dust, but at night I hear it, my voice whispering from the dark, "You're mine." The mind's mirror doesn't let go. It's waiting, patient to pull me back, its flame flickering in my dreams, calling me home. Story 5. The Weaver's Thread. I'm 38, a librarian from Asheville, North Carolina, used to quiet stacks and the soft rustle of pages. The Appalachian Mountains were my retreat, their trails a place to sketch wildflowers and forget the world's noise. My friends called me a hermit, but I liked it that way, alone with my notebook, pencil, and the hum of the forest. Last June, I heard about a place called Thread Hollow, a valley in eastern Tennessee's Smokies, named for a creek that twisted like a seam through the hills. A hiker's blog mentioned ruins there, an old village, abandoned since the 1800s, half reclaimed by vines. I was hooked. History and solitude sounded perfect. I packed my sketchbook, a tent, water, and a folding knife, and set out, leaving my phone off for the weekend. The drive to Thread Hollow was winding, past crumbling barns and fog-draped ridges, the road narrowing until gravel crunched under my tires. The trailhead was unmarked, just a gap in the laurels, the air heavy with pine and damp earth. I shouldered my pack, the weight familiar, and started down the path. The trail was overgrown, roots snaking across it, but the creek's murmur guided me, its water glinting like liquid silver. The forest was alive at first, birds chattering, squirrels darting, leaves whispering in the breeze. I stopped to sketch a cluster of trilliums, their petals stark against the loam, losing myself in the lines. By noon, the trail dipped into the hollow, the trees taller, their canopy blotting out the sky. That's when I noticed the quiet, not peaceful, but empty, like the forest held its breath. My boots sounded too loud, crunching leaves that seemed brittle, almost charred. The creek's hum faded, replaced by a low drone, faint, like a distant machine. I checked my map, but the trail wasn't marked right. Curves didn't match, landmarks missing. I kept going, stubborn, telling myself I'd find the ruins soon. An hour later, I saw the first sign. A thread, red, thin as spider silk, tied to a branch. Then another, looped around a stone. Then dozens, crisscrossing the path, glinting in slants of light. They weren't random. Patterns emerged like a web, guiding me deeper. The threads led to a clearing, wide and flat, the ground carpeted with moss so thick it swallowed my steps. In the center stood the ruins, Stone walls, collapsed roofs, chimneys jutting like broken teeth. Vines choked everything, but the threads were everywhere, red, taut, strung between trees, walls, even the air, shimmering like they moved. I sketched the scene, my hand shaking, the drone louder now, vibrating my chest. One wall had a doorway, intact, its frame carved with symbols, loops, knots, spirals, worn but deliberate. I stepped through, and the air changed, thick, warm, like stepping into a greenhouse. The drone was a pulse, steady, alive. Inside was a room, impossibly large, its walls stone but smooth, like polished bone. Threads covered them, floor to ceiling, woven into tapestries that shifted as I moved. Scenes of forests, rivers, people, but wrong. Faces blurred, limbs twisted, eyes too large, mouths open in silent screams. My flashlight caught a figure in the corner, small, hunched, wrapped in a cloak of red thread. It didn't move, but the threads did, rippling toward it like water to a drain. I called out, "Hello?" My voice echoed, sharp, then died. The figure's head turned, slow, its face hidden under the hood. A hand emerged, skeletal, holding a needle, red thread trailing from it, glinting wet. I backed up, heart racing, knife in hand. The figure stood taller than it should have been, its cloak unraveling, threads floating free, curling toward me. It spoke, a voice like rustling silk. "You've seen the pattern." Not a question, a weight pressing my skull. The tapestries. Moved, images changing. Me sketching, walking, standing here now, my face unraveling into threads. I swung my knife, cutting a thread, and the room shook, stones groaning, dust falling. The figure laughed, soft, and the threads tightened, snagging my arms, my legs cold as wire, burning where they touched. I slashed again, stumbling toward the door, but it was gone. Just wall, seamless, trapping me. The drone was deafening, my vision pulsing, the figure closer, needle raised. "Join the weave," it said, and I saw it, my life spooling out, moments stitched into the walls. My first book, my mother's smile, my lonely nights, all read, all bound. I screamed, tore at the threads, my knife slicing skin as much as silk. Blood dripped and the figure paused, head tilting, threads drinking the red, glowing brighter. I ran, blind, crashing through threads, walls blurring, the room stretching, endless. The drone became voices, not mine, chanting, pulling, promising rest if I stopped. I didn't, kept moving, cutting, until I hit something solid, a stone, carved with a spiral. I pushed and it gave, tumbling me into daylight, the clearing again. Ruins behind me. The threads were gone, but my arms were scored, blood drying, my knife notched. I ran, pack abandoned, trail a blur, the drone fading but never gone. I don't know how I found my car, instinct maybe, or the hollow letting me go. I drove, hands trembling, not stopping until Asheville's lights burned my eyes. I burned my sketchbook, quit the library, moved to a city with no trees. But I feel it at night. The drone, soft and threads red in my dreams, stitching me back. Last week I found a needle on my pillow. Red thread looped through it, wet. I flushed it, but Thread Hollow's weaver knows my pattern. It's pulling, patient, waiting to finish its work. Story 6. The Clockmaker's Ridge. I'm 42, a carpenter from Boone, North Carolina, where I shape oak and cherry into tables and chairs for folks who value the soul of wood over the cold gloss of factory lines. My hands know the grain, the way it resists and gives under a chisel, each knot a story of storms and seasons. The Appalachian mountains raised me, their steep ridges my proving ground, where I tested my nerve with a rifle or a bow, tracking deer through fog-draped hollers. My grandfather, a lean man with eyes sharp as flint, taught me to read the land, deer tracks in soft mud, the shift of wind through pines, the way shadows stretch at dusk. But he also spoke of places the land didn't welcome, where the world felt thin. Vesper Ridge, a jagged scar of rock in western Virginia's Alleghenies, was one. Unsettled, he called it, his voice low, pipe smoke curling like a warning. Time don't sit right there, boy. It's like a clock wound too tight, ready to snap. I'd laugh, young and cocky, but his eyes held no humor, only a shadow of something he'd never name. Last August I was restless, hollowed out by a brutal year. Orders for my furniture had dwindled, the economy choking folks' wallets, and my son, Caleb, had left for Seattle, chasing a tech job that felt like a betrayal of our mountain roots. My house in Boone echoed with his absence, each creak of the floorboards a reminder of empty rooms. I needed to escape, to feel the earth under my boots, to prove I wasn't just rattling bones in a dying trade. Vesper Ridge called. Its reputation a dare whispered in hunting circles. Tales of strange lights, compasses spinning wild, hunters lost for days, returning with holes in their memories. I didn't buy the ghost stories, but they stirred something in me. A hunger for a challenge. I packed light, my recurve bow, a tent, a water filter, a hatchet, and enough jerky and hardtack for 3 days. I wanted to hunt, to track something real, to feel my pulse again. The drive was a grueling 6 hours, roads snaking through valleys choked with kudzu, the air heavy with late summer heat that clung like damp cloth. The trailhead was a forgotten gravel lot, weeds clawing through cracked stone. No signs, just a path climbing sharp into a wall of pines. I parked my truck, an old Ford with a dented tailgate, and checked my gear under a sky bruised with clouds. Dawn broke, painting the ridge in shades of ash and gold, and I started to. Up the trail, bow slung over my shoulder, quiver rattling against my hip. The forest was dense, smelling of sap, dry earth, and something sharp, like the air before lightning. The trail was steep, rocks shifting under my boots, forcing me to move slow, deliberate. My eyes scanning for deer sign, scrapes on trees, rubs where antlers shaved bark, fresh tracks. Nothing. Not a hoof print, not a snapped twig. The ridge was silent, too silent. No bird song, no rustle of critters. Just my breath and the crunch of my steps, loud as gunshots in the stillness. I'd been climbing for hours when I checked my watch. A cheap digital thing, reliable enough for the woods. It read 11:47 a.m., but the second hand was frozen, twitching like a dying insect. I tapped it, shook my wrist, cursed softly. Junk, I thought, and reached for my compass, a brass heirloom from my grandfather, its weight familiar in my palm. The needle spun, lazy, refusing north, just circling in slow, aimless loops. A chill pricked my neck, sharp as a splinter. I pulled out my topo map, but the ridge's contours didn't align. Cliffs where streams should have been. Paths looping in ways that defied reason. The forest felt wrong. The trees too tall. Their branches too still, like they were watching. I marked a pine with my hatchet, carving a deep X to ground myself, and pushed on, the air thickening, heavy with the promise of a storm that never came. By what should have been noon, the light hadn't shifted, stuck in that early morning gray, as if the sun was trapped. I reached a clearing, unnatural in its flatness, a perfect circle ringed by stones etched with sharp angular lines, gears or runes or something older. They glinted, wet, though the ground was dry as bone. In the center stood a contraption, wood and iron, tall as a man, shaped like a grandfather clock but twisted. Wrong. Its face was blank. No numbers, just warped hands bent at impossible angles, ticking loud enough to hum in my bones. The wood was dark, almost black, polished to a sheen that swallowed light. And the iron was pitted, rusted, but alive, gears grinding inside like a heartbeat. I circled it, bow gripped tight, my pulse thudding in my ears. The ticking wasn't steady, it surged, then slowed like a breath catching in a throat. My skin crawled, every instinct screaming to run, but my carpenter's curiosity, that need to know how things fit, held me. I stepped closer, the air thick, tasting of rust and rot. The stone's carvings seemed to writhe, their lines curling like veins under my gaze. I reached out, foolish, my fingers brushing the clock's wood. It was warm. Too warm, like skin under varnish, pulsing faintly. The ticking stopped. Silence crashed down, my ears ringing, the world holding its breath. Then the hand spun, wild backward, and the air cracked, sharp as glass under a boot. The clearing blurred trees bending inward like claws, the sky dimming to a bruised gray, stars flickering, too close, too sharp, like eyes in the dark. A voice came, not from the clock but from the air itself, low and raw like wind through a hollow tree, carrying words that felt alive, hungry. You've wound it. It wasn't mechanical but human, too human. A voice that knew my name, my fears curling into my skull like smoke. I stumbled back, my bow clattering against my quiver, and ran. The trail twisted underfoot, trees leaning wrong, their roots rising like they'd grown in seconds. My watch was moving now, backward. 11:46, 11:45, seconds peeling away like flesh. The ticking followed, not behind but inside me, syncing with my pulse, slowing it until my chest burned. I tripped, my hatchet skidding across the dirt, and saw my mark, the X on the pine, but weathered, moss-grown like years had passed in moments. Panic clawed my chest, raw and sharp, my breath ragged as I scrambled up. The trail looped, impossible, the forest folding in on itself. More stones appeared, their gear carvings glinting red, like blood under moonlight. The voice came again, softer, almost pleading but edged with menace. Stay. In the count. It sounded like my grandfather now, his cadence. But wrong, twisted like a memory warped by fever. I didn't look back, didn't want to see what spoke, but the ticking grew louder, a rhythm in my bones. The trail spat me back into the clearing, the clock's hands a blur, the sky darker, those unnatural stars burning. A figure stood beside the clock, tall, draped in rags that flowed like water, its face a wooden mask carved with gears, no, eyes just slits leaking black. It moved, jerky like a marionette, one hand turning a crank on the clock's side. The ticking surged, my knees buckling, time unraveling. Memories flashed, not mine. A boy running through tall grass. A woman, screaming as flames ate a house. A man carving wood under flickering candlelight. All sharp, real, then gone. I shouted, "Stop!" My voice broke, swallowed by the voice's hum. Now a chorus of whispers, layered, alive. You can't outrun the count. The figure's mask turned, slits widening, black pooling, like tears. It stepped toward me, rags trailing like mist, and I swung my bow, useless, the string snapping with a twang. The figure didn't flinch, just cranked faster, the clock's hands a frenzy, the air warping, my skin tightening, like it was shrinking over my bones. In the mask's slits, I saw myself. Fractured, older, gray-haired, younger, a boy, broken. A dozen Emmys stitched into moments I didn't know. I grabbed my hatchet, desperation flooding my veins, and hacked at the clock, wood splintering, iron screeching like a wounded beast. The figure lunged, its fingers grazing my arm, cold as frostbite burning deep. The voice wailed, a human cry raw and anguished. "You break the count!" The clearing shook, stones cracking, trees groaning, the sky splitting into those two close stars. I kept swinging, the hatchet biting deep, the clock's face caving, its hands snapping like brittle bones. The ticking faltered, slowed, and the figure froze, its mask cracking, black leaking like oil. I ran, not caring where, the ridge crumbling underfoot, air thick with rust and decay. Time dragged, my legs heavy, my watch stuck at 11:47 again, but ticking forward now. Slow, deliberate. I saw my ex, fresh, unweathered, a beacon in the chaos, and followed it. The trail straightening, the forest opening like a wound healing. Dawn broke. Sudden light searing my eyes, the air clean, smelling of pine and earth. I hit the trailhead, my truck waiting untouched, but my tent was gone, my bow broken, the hatchet notched like I'd fought a war. I drove, didn't stop, didn't look back, Vesper Ridge fading in my mirrors. Back in Boone, I burned my maps, smashed my watch, its face frozen at 11:47. I don't hunt anymore. Don't trust clocks. Their ticking feels like a trap, a countdown I can't escape. At night I hear it, faint, backward, slow, woven into the wind outside my windows. Last month I found a gear on my porch, iron, carved with those angular lines warm to the touch like it remembered my hand. I threw it in the river, watched it sink, but I know better. Vesper Ridge doesn't unwind. It's counting, patient. Its voice, human, alive, endless, waiting for me to step back into its time. Story 7. The Veil's Keeper. I'm 40, a photographer from Morgantown, West Virginia, chasing light through lenses for magazines and galleries that hunger for the raw, fleeting beauty of the world. The Appalachian Mountains were my canvas. Fog, curling through their ridges, dawn fracturing over jagged peaks, moments caught in a shutter snap. My brother Nate used to hike with me, his laugh echoing through the hollers, his boots crunching beside mine as we chased the perfect shot. But he'd settled in Pittsburgh, trading trails for a desk job, leaving me to roam solo, my camera my only companion. Last November, I was burned out, my photos feeling flat, lifeless, like I'd lost the spark that once made my work sing. I scoured photography forums, desperate for inspiration, and stumbled on whispers of Dusk Hollow, a valley in eastern Kentucky's Cumberland Plateau, rumored to hold a veil. A mist that never lifted, glowing at twilight, casting light, that defied reason. Photographers called it a myth, swamp gas, tricks of the eye, but the idea hooked me. I needed something alive, something to jolt my soul back to life, to make my lens see again. I packed my camera, a sturdy tripod, a tent, a water filter, a multi-tool, and enough jerky and granola for a weekend shoot, determined to capture dusk. Hollow's secrets. The drive was a grueling 5 hours. Roads twisting past coal towns with rusted signs, their letters peeling like old skin, and hollowed-out hills scarred by strip mines, their slopes weeping black dust. Dusk painted the sky blood red, the horizon smoldering as I pulled into the trailhead. A dirt lot, barely a path, no markers, just a narrow track sinking into pines, their needles sharp against the fading light. The air was cold, heavy with damp smelling of whetstone, cedar, and something older, like a grave left open, breathing. I hiked in at dawn, camera slung around my neck, lens cap off, ready to catch the first light. The trail was soft, spongy, like it hadn't been walked in years, each step sinking, pulling at my boots as if the earth wanted to hold me. Fog rolled in early, thick, curling around trunks, muting the world to shades of gray. Swallowing. Sound. I stopped to shoot, a gnarled oak, its branches clawing the mist, light soft but strange. Too golden for morning, like honey spilled across the air. My camera's shutter clicked. But the display glitched. Not the tree, but a blur, tall, thin. Wrong. I checked the lens, wiped it with a trembling hand, shot again. The blur sharpened. A figure, moving fast, its edges jagged, like a tear in the world. I shook. It off-blamed the cold, the damp, my tired eyes. But my heart tapped faster, a warning I ignored as I pushed deeper into the hollow. The trail wound tighter, fog thickening, the forest too quiet. No birds, no wind, just my boots squelching and breath fogging in the chill, each sound swallowed by the haze. By noon, the light hadn't shifted, locked in that eerie dawn glow, as if time was stuck, refusing to move. The pines loomed taller, their bark slick, almost alive, their branches weaving a canopy that blocked the sky. I felt watched, not by eyes but by the hollow itself, its silence pressing against my skin. I thought of Nate, his voice in my head teasing me for chasing ghosts, but the memory stung, sharp, reminding me of the distance between us. I'd always shot alone after he left, but now in this quiet, I missed his steady presence, his hand on my shoulder, grounding me. The trail dipped, leading to a clearing, wide, unnatural, the ground bare, smooth as glass, ringed by stones carved with lines, curves, slashes, like veins pulsing under stone, catching the light in ways that made my eyes ache. The fog here glowed, faint, pulsing like a heartbeat caught in air, warm and alive. I set my tripod, hands shaking, and framed the stones. But my camera wouldn't focus, the lens whining, display flickering with shapes, faces, eyes, hands, gone when I blinked. I switched to manual, heart racing, fingers fumbling on the dials, sweat beading despite the cold. That's when I saw it. A veil, not fog, shimmering in the clearing center, tall as a door, rippling like silk stretched over water, its edges curling, alive. It wasn't mist. It moved, deliberate, showing glimpses beyond. Trees, but taller, their branches twisted like fingers. Sky purple, bruised. Shadows writhing like living things. A hum started, low. Not in my ears, but inside my chest. Vibrating. My ribs, my bones, syncing with my pulse. I approached, camera forgotten. The veil's glow warm, pulling my eyes like a tide, whispering to something deep in me. My breath caught, memories of Nate flashing, us as kids, chasing fireflies. Him leaving, his truck fading down the road, each one sharp, cutting. I reached out, stupid, my fingers brushing the veil. It was cold, liquid clinging like oil, crawling up my skin, tugging at my nerves. The hum spiked. A voice came, soft, not human, like wind through dead leaves, but alive, knowing, weaving my name into its tone. You, see. My hand jerked back, but the veil rippled and something stepped through, not out, but into my world. A figure, cloaked in fog, its face a mask of mist, eyes burning white, too bright like, "Stars gone wrong." I stumbled. Tripod falling, crashing to the ground, the figure gliding closer, not walking, just there. "Stay," it said, voice weaving into the hum, soft but heavy, like a lover's whisper laced with menace, making my knees weak, my thoughts slow. I grabbed my multi-tool, flipped the blade useless, shouting, "Get back!" My voice cracked, swallowed by the fog. The figure tilted its head, mask shifting, showing Nate's face. Not his now, but younger, smiling. his eyes warm, then melting, warping, those white eyes unblinking, staring through me. The veil flared. Images hit me, Nate hiking, laughing, his boots crunching, me shooting photos alone, lens heavy in my hands. A fire, a scream, a hand reaching through fog. Not memories, but pieces, sharp, stitching into my head, pulling me toward the veil like a hook in my gut. I saw my mother, her face pale, calling my name. A child I didn't know, running through a burning field. A mirror, reflecting not me but something else. Its eyes white, smiling, the clearing shrank. Stones glowing, their carvings moving, crawling up the air, forming threads. Cold, burning, snagging my arms, my legs, tightening like wire, cutting. To my skin. I slashed with the multi-tool, threads snapping, but more came, faster, wrapping tighter. The figure's eyes brighter, its voice a chorus, layered, alive, pulsing with hunger. Join! My camera on the ground clicked, shutter firing alone, display showing me. Not me now, but inside the veil. Face pale, eyes white, smiling. I lunged for it, smashed it against a stone, plastic cracking, glass shattering, but the veil pulled. My feet sliding, the hum deafening, my pulse slowing, matching its rhythm, dragging me down like a tide, pulling me under. I don't know why I fought. Instinct maybe, or Nate's laugh in my head. Real, not the figure's lie. I tore at the threads, blood welling where they cut, warm, dripping down my arms, and ran. Not toward the trail, but through the veil. Not thinking, just moving. The world twisted. Fog turning to light, purple, blinding, ground soft like flesh underfoot, pulsing faintly. Shadows moved, not human, tall, thin, their eyes like the figures watching, their forms flickering at the edges of my vision. I kept running, air burning my lungs, threads breaking, hum fading, but never gone. A stone appeared, uncarved, solid. I hit it, hard, falling into darkness. Then daylight, the clearing again, veil gone, stones dull, fog just fog, cold, and heavy, but no longer alive. I grabbed my pack, left the tripod, the camera's shards, and ran. Trail blurring, branches tearing my jacket, snagging my skin, blood dripping from my hands, staining the earth. The forest woke, birds chirping, wind rustling, life, but the hum lingered. Faint in my bones, a whisper I couldn't shake, like a song stuck in my head. I reached my car, engine roaring, drove without stopping. Morgantown's lights a lifeline, their glow pulling me back to the world. I quit photography, sold my gear, lenses that once felt like extensions of my eyes now tainted wrong. I told Nate I'd crash my car, nothing more, my voice tight, avoiding his questions. I live in the city now, Pittsburgh, near him, where concrete and noise drown out the silence of the hollow. I avoid fog, mirrors, anything that reflects, anything that might show those eyes. At night, I hear it, the hum soft, weaving through my dreams, and see eyes, white, waiting. Their glow burning behind my lids. Last month I found a stone in my mailbox, small, carved with veins, warm like it breathed, its surface pulsing faintly under my fingers. I threw it in a dumpster, watched it sink into trash, but I know better. Dusk Hollow's keeper hasn't forgotten. The veil's open and it's calling me back, its voice a whisper in the dark, alive, hungry, promising I'll see again. Story 8. The Cavern's Pulse. I'm 35, a geologist from Chattanooga, Tennessee, mapping rock layers for a university research grant. My days spent decoding the Earth's secrets in stone. The Appalachian Mountains were my lab, their caves and cliffs a puzzle of time, each layer a chapter carved by eons. My colleague Sam used to join me, his hammer clinking beside mine, but he'd traded field work for a desk job in Knoxville, leaving me to face the wild alone. Last December, I got a tip from an old miner about a cave in Raven Hollow, a remote gorge in northern Georgia's Cohutta wilderness. Uncharted, forbidden, rumored to hum like a living thing. Locals shunned it, called it cursed, their voices dropping to whispers, eyes darting like they'd seen something they couldn't unsee. I saw a chance to publish something big. Funding was tight, my career stalled, my apartment a silent cage of unopened mail and unwritten papers. I needed a win. I packed my gear, headlamp, rope, geological hammer, notebook, a flare, and a multi-tool, and headed out, snow flurries dusting my windshield, the road ahead blurring into the unknown. The drive was a grueling 4 hours, twisting. Through pine-choked valleys and frost-bitten ridges, the air sharp with winter's bite. Raven Hollow's trail was a faint scar, barely visible, snaking through hemlocks and rhododendrons, their leaves brittle, crunching underfoot. The air was bitter, heavy with the scent of ice and mineral dust like the earth itself was exhaling secrets. I hiked 3 hours, boots crunching frozen earth, gorge walls rising steep, blotting the sky, their shadows swallowing the weak December light. The cave's mouth was low, half hidden by ferns, its edges jagged like a wound in the rock. Bleeding darkness. I crawled in, headlamp cutting the black, walls glistening with calcite, air damp, heavy like breathing through wet cloth. The passage was tight, forcing me to shimmy, my pack scraping stone, the sound echoing like a warning. A hum started, faint, not mechanical but organic, like a heartbeat underwater pulsing in my chest. I paused, notebook out, jotting coordinates, but my pen shook, the hum vibrating my fingers, making my handwriting jagged, unsteady. The tunnel widened into a chamber, vast, its ceiling lost in shadow, stalactites dripping like teeth, their tips glinting in my headlamp's beam. The hum was louder, pulsing, making my chest tight, my teeth buzz, a rhythm that felt alive, wrong. My headlamp caught veins in the walls, not mineral but pale, soft, throbbing like arteries under skin, weaving through the stone like roots through soil. I sketched them, heart racing, telling myself it was optics, light playing tricks, but my hand trembled, the pencil scratching too loud in the silence. The veins moved, slow, curling toward the chamber's center, where a pool sat, black, still, its surface reflecting nothing, not even my light. The hum came from it, deep, pulling, like a tide in my blood, urging me closer. I stepped forward, rope coiled, flare in hand, and saw ripples, faint, forming shapes. Eyes, mouths, hands, dissolving fast like whispers in water. I should have. Every instinct screamed it, but science is stubborn. I dropped a pebble, testing depth, but it sank silent. No splash, the hum swallowing sound. My headlamp flickered, dimmed, and the veins glowed red, bright, their pulse matching the hum, syncing with my heartbeat. A voice came, not from the pool but in me, low, liquid like water over bone, alive with intent. You feel it. My flare sparked, red light flaring, and the pool moved, rising, forming a figure, tall, fluid, its face a swirl of eyes, too many watching, their glow piercing, unblinking. It didn't speak, but the hum did, words forming. Soft, hungry, stay. My notebook fell, pages flipping, sketches now alive, veins crawling across paper, reaching for me like fingers. I backed up, flare burning, rope tangling my feet, my breath ragged in the damp air. The figure glided, not solid, its eyes, shifting, locking on mine, showing me not my reflection but Sam, digging then screaming, me mapping then drowning, My own face melting into the pool, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent cry. The veins snaked out, wet, wrapping my wrists, cold, burning, pulling me toward the pool like a fish on a line. I swung my hammer, hit. Nothing. The hum spiking, a wave of nausea twisting my gut, making my knees buckle. The chamber shook, stalactites cracking, dust choking the air, falling like ash. I shouted, voice flat, swallowed by the hum, and the figure's eyes flared, its form rippling, splitting into dozens, smaller, circling, their hums a chorus, deafening, slowing my heart, dragging my pulse into their rhythm. I threw the flare, fire, hissing in the pool, and the figures screamed. Not sound, but pressure splitting my skull. A wail that felt like grief, rage, hunger. The veins tightened, cutting skin, blood dripping, warm, soaking my sleeves, and the pool drank it, glowing brighter, shapes clearer. My life, unspooling. My first dig. Sam's laugh, my empty apartment, coffee mugs unwashed, papers scattered. Then others, a child running through a field, a woman weeping, a fire-eating stone, all sharp, real, sinking into the pool's black depths. I cut the rope with my multi-tool, slashed the veins, their grip snapping, wet, like tendons breaking. I ran, tunnel narrowing, walls pulsing, hum chasing, my headlamp dead, leaving me blind, groping through the dark. The voice laughed, a sound like water over gravel, alive, mocking. Your part. Rocks tore my knees, my hands, blood seeping, air thick, tasting of blood and iron, choking me as I crawled, desperate for light. I saw it. Snow. Faint. Real. A sliver of daylight through the cave's mouth. I burst out, collapsing. In the gorge, snow soaking my clothes, blood freezing on my hands, my breath ragged, steaming in the cold. The hum faded, but never gone. A pulse in my bones, a whisper in my blood. I staggered to my car, legs shaking, hands numb. Drove, didn't stop. Chattanooga's lights blurring through tears, the city a lifeline pulling me back. I quit the university, burned my notes, pages curling to ash. Told Sam I'd caught a bug, nothing more. My voice tight, dodging his concern. I avoid caves, water, anything that reflects, anything that might show those eyes. At night I hear it, the hum, soft, weaving through my dreams, and see eyes. Too many. Waiting, their glow burning behind my lids, calling me back. Last week I found a stone in my sink. Wet, carved with an eye, pulsing faintly. Warm under my fingers like it breathed. I smashed it with my hammer, shards scattering. But I know better. Raven Hollow's cavern hasn't let go. It's beating, patient. Its voice a whisper in the dark, alive, hungry, waiting for my return. That's the last of tonight's descent into the Appalachian shadows, where the mountains hold their secrets tight. 7 tales, each a thread in the dark tapestry of these ancient hills, woven from the fears of those who walked their paths. If these stories sank their claws into you, hit that like button to let the shadows know you're here. Subscribe and ring the bell to join the restless souls who crave more. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from, and have you ever felt something watch you in the woods? Share this video with friends who dare to listen, and tell us your own eerie encounters. The best might haunt our next episode. The fire's dying, but the darkness lingers. Sleep lightly, and we'll meet again soon.